Okay, good afternoon all, and thank you for joining us today to listen to a relatively brief overview of our newly released expeditions to the remote and rarely visited islands and atolls of Micronesia and Melanesia. Coral expeditions have actually been cruising these waters for many years now, and throughout these highlighted trips today, we're going to be returning to many locations that have welcomed us in the past. That being said, these three itineraries that we're focusing on today are all new itineraries that offer a true small ship expedition experience that fits particularly well with our company ethos to take small groups of guests to really remote and untouched locations with the informal and relaxed onboard experience that we're known for providing. My name is Will. I'm a part of the Coral Expeditions sales team. Joining me today, we're lucky to have not one, but two members of the Coral Expedition product team that have designed and built these itineraries and so are hopefully the perfect people to provide an overview of the voyages and the many highlights and excursions on offer. And I'll introduce you to them shortly. Please note that I try and keep these presentations to a maximum of 45 minutes. And so for full detailed day-by-day itineraries and a wealth of additional knowledge, please feel free to jump onto our genuinely excellent website or reach out to our Cairns-based service team as required. Many of you joining us today will already have experienced a Coral Expedition cruise and will be more than aware of both the onboard and ashore experience we offer on all our expedition itineraries, both domestically and whilst in international waters. We're Australian owned, we sail under the Australian flag and have a fully Aussie crew, admittedly with a few Kiwis sprinkled amongst them. And we've been sailing for 40 years with one purpose: to take small groups of like-minded guests to really remote places with expert guidance and our signature warm Australian hospitality. The guest experience across all of our trips, as mentioned, it's a relaxed onboard atmosphere. We don't have any assigned seating. We don't have any dressing for dinner. We have an open bridge policy on the top right-hand side of the screen there, and we actively encourage an open interaction between our guests and crew. We have small batch dining prepared in our open galleys, so again you can interact with the chefs to your heart's content, and plenty of both in and outdoor bar and kind of dining areas, so you can kind of sit back and relax and watch those genuinely stunning vistas drift by. If you're looking for an expedition cruise itinerary or the ship that has multiple bars, restaurants, casinos, nightclubs, then the Coral Expedition product is probably not what you're looking for. Instead, the only onboard entertainment we offer is our schedule of lectures and presentations from our guest lecturer and expedition leader team, and obviously specific to the regions in which you cruise. All of our shore-based excursions are accompanied by our expert expedition team. So the guest lecturers on the previous slide are selected for their specific local knowledge, and will be selected on specific kind of cruise series and itineraries, whereas our expedition team are full-time and represent us on board in all of our destinations. So the expedition experience at its core, and the core of why we can provide that kind of true small ship expedition experience comes down a lot to our explorer tenders seen here on the screen. If any of you have cruised with Coral Expeditions previously, you're going to be more than aware of the benefits of what our explorer tenders offer. But they provide the perfect conduit between our kind of motherships and the really kind of remote wilderness destinations that we primarily visit. So we've got comfortable seating for up to 70 guests. On our larger ships, Coral Adventurer, that we're going to be highlighting today for this cruise series, we have two explorers, so they can fit the entire ship's complement and on and off board that entire ship's complement in under 15 minutes. We've got protection from the elements, so we've got a sunroof, particularly valid in these predominantly tropical and subtropical waters that we cruise in, but obviously occasionally for the tropical downpours that we might get visited upon us. And more importantly, there's a toilet on board for remote convenience. And this might not sound like a big deal, but it completely avoids the need to regularly run back and forth between the mothership for regular toilet breaks, and avoids the need, obviously, to have a quick dip in the ocean or find the closest bush. Sorry. In short, they provide that perfect conduit between our ships and the really remote places we go to, many of which that don't have formal harbour facilities. So in places like the islands and atolls of Micronesia and Melanesia that we're focusing on today, beach landings are going to be a relatively daily occurrence. Up on the top left and the right hand screen of the screen here is what we call a wet and a dry beach landing. A dry on the top left hand side there, where you can just walk down the kind of landing craft ramp and onto the beach, and then off to the right there, what we call a wet landing. We're never going to drop you in more than approaching knee depth clear water, so it's just all about preparing accordingly and bringing appropriate footwear. The bottom left-hand and central image on the screen is just the boarding process of our Explorer tenders. So they're actually launched off one of the main decks on Coral Adventurer. You can see on the screen. So there's no steps or ladders you can tend with. You just walk a nice level walk on, take your seat, and then the image in the center of the screen there is the hydraulic platform, which just gently lowers the Explorer tenders into the water, and then away you go. And obviously for the return process, it's just in reverse. So again, no steps or ladders to contend with. You're not jumping into a bouncing Zodiac moored beside the ship, and we provide it. We think it provides the perfect way to find that kind of true expedition experience, no matter how remote the waters in which we sail. But that being said, on all of our domestic and international itineraries, we complement these kind of unique purpose-built and designed Explorer tenders with the more traditional Zodiac inflatables. And where applicable, we use these in conjunction with each other. So it's up to you as our guest to pick and choose how adventurous or not you want to be on a day-by-day or case-by-case basis. And we found that using the Zodiac inflatables alongside our unique Explorer tenders allows us to provide that genuine, true expedition experience. So snorkeling and moving on to the next slide, scuba dive activities, particularly on these itineraries, focused on these, paradise islands and atolls of Micronesia and Melanesia, some of the most pristine reef systems and waters left on the planet. Just going back a slide, so the Explorer tenders double up as an absolutely perfect scuba diving and snorkel platform, and we've got the drop down ramp on the front. Obviously you've got the side access point there. So in waters like that we're going to be focusing on today, they play an incredibly important role, like I say, as a snorkel or scuba dive platform. Diving opportunities, we offer full scuba facilities across all 3 ships in the Coral Expeditions fleet, and where applicable, like domestically, like on Ningaloo Reef over in WA, and obviously on the Great Barrier Reef, and then up into places like Raja Ampat, the Coral Triangle, the islands of Indonesia and the East Indies and the Philippines, and then obviously Micronesia and Melanesia focusing on today. The opportunities to get both in and under the water are practically a daily occurrence. Scuba diving does come at an additional cost, and I know I've already had a question submitted to me on scuba diving, which I'll address towards the end of the presentation. So it's an all-inclusive experience with Coral Expedition, with minor exceptions, and scuba diving is one of those. If you are pre-qualified scuba diver and you are looking to jump on one of these 3 itineraries, please just let us know, or get your travel agent to let us know at the time of booking, and we'll ensure that you have a scuba spot finalised and reserved on board. So moving on to the fleet. So as mentioned, we've just got 3 purpose-built small ship expedition cruise vessels in the Coral Expeditions fleet. The vessel that we're going to be focusing on today, and the one that we're going to be utilising across all 3 cruises in this Micronesia and Melanesia cruise series, is Coral Adventurer, one of our 2 newer vessels, launched in late 2019. I don't have time today to go into too much detail, so again, please feel free to jump onto our website, where we give you full ship walkthroughs, deck layouts, loads of images, videos, you name it, we've got it, and so peruse to your heart's content. But all you really need to know is she's purpose-built sail in these, predominantly tropical waters. We've got a maximum guest capacity on board of 120 passengers across 60 staterooms. And as you can see, all of our staterooms are outward facing. Many come with private balconies. All of them are en suite. So we've hopefully got an option depending on your personal requirements. So Coral Adventurer, the ship that we're going to be utilising across all of these Micronesia and Melanesia departures. So moving on to our guest speakers today, Steve Cox and Jennifer Mancinelli. I hope I've pronounced that right, Jen. So both Steve and Jen are members of our Cairns head office-based product team, basically, and they've been heavily involved probably over the last 2, if not longer years, designing and building these what are, genuinely epic expedition itineraries, and hopefully going to provide a little bit of commentary over their respective itineraries today. So without further ado, thank you very much, Steve and Jen, for joining us today. Feel free to introduce yourselves and we'll move on to our first highlighted itinerary today.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve. I've been working for the company for more than 12 years, mostly out in the field on the ships. And pretty much since COVID times, I started moving into doing stuff on land. So putting voyages together in Micronesia and Japan, Kimberley and New Zealand. I was involved just doing the Micronesia for this section. Jen?
I'll just unmute myself. Hi all, I'm Jen. I've been with Coral Expeditions also for about 12, 13 years. Started out in reservations and then moved over to product about, I think it's about 7 years ago now. I have been lucky enough to have planning experience with pretty much all of our itineraries. The Papua New Guinea and Melanesia cruise itineraries are by far my favorite just because of the diversity that they offer. And just every single day there's something new and exciting to do. And it's just amazing diversity in culture, wildlife, and your snorkeling experiences as well. So excited to talk about them.
Thank you very much, both. So without further ado, we'll move on to our first itinerary today through the islands and atolls of Micronesia. 21 nights, Rabaul to Sarong. Before I hand over to Steve on this one, it's worth pointing out as well, and many of you listening today who have maybe sampled some of our more obscure kind of international destinations will be aware of our kind of charter flight options. So, we regularly, we focus on these kind of more remote wilderness areas, particularly in the Asia Pacific region, and we appreciate that some of our joining and departure cities are not necessarily on the easy to work out kind of flight schedules. Basically, they're no kind of Singapore Changi Airport. So in places like Sarong and places like Rabaul, we offer a completely optional charter flight opportunity to hopefully simplify your travel and travel logistics planning, basically. So through the islands of and atolls of Micronesia, 21 nights, Rabaul to Sarong. So our long history of operating in New Guinea and Micronesia allows us to really showcase this amazing region. And aboard this 21-night voyage, you're going to discover the rich tribal cultures of Cosrae, Pohnpei, Truk Lagoon, and the famous Yap Islands and atolls, with their intriguing ancestral traditions and warm local welcomes. And you'll dive into crystal clear waters at most stops, exploring lagoons and pristine biosphere reserves. And you'll get to visit all 4 states of the Federated States of Micronesia, including Yap, Truk, Pohnpei, and Cosrae. Major highlights of the trip for me, anyway, are getting to traverse the fringing reefs of Ant Atoll to explore the genuinely pristine waters, discovering some of the World War II Japanese wrecks scattered across the floor on Truk Lagoon, learning about the unique stone currency on Yap Island, You'll get to explore the famed archaeological site of Nan Madol at Pohnpei, which is known as the Venice of the Pacific. And you'll get regular opportunities to meet the locals that call these small remote islands and atolls home, and learn about their culture and way of life. And as mentioned in my kind of preamble, there are opportunities to snorkel and dive at almost every stop, from world famous lagoons to remote biosphere reserves. So look, without further ado, over to you, Steve, with some of the first highlights.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. So just out of Rabaul, they were talking about, Will was talking about charter flights. My advice there is 100% to take the charter flight. Traveling around New Guinea can be difficult with air flights. Sometimes they just don't happen. So taking an Australian flight out of Cairns into Rabaul for me is far and away the best way to make sure you're getting there. And once you arrive in Rabaul, then the guys will pick you up and take you back to the Rapopo Resort, where you can just relax and have a drink and then board the ship. And then that's the only time you're in PNG. You will have to get a tourist visa online, of course, beforehand. That's just a requirement. And then they'll have a person to stamp you out of PNG on board the vessel. Then we've got a day at sea, getting ourselves across into that first very remote part of Micronesia, and the guys will set the voyage up and explain what's going to happen, some GL presentations and such like on that sea day. The first stop is, as you can see there, is Kapingi Marangi. So it's quite a long word to say. And it's probably the most remote spot in Micronesia, because it's just so far away from any of the larger areas that are more heavily populated. These guys don't see many people. Ourselves and a couple of other ships is about it. It really is an absolutely stunning place to visit there. What we'll do there is there's a small village there, which you can just see in that kind of top photo just on the second one along. It's kind of a kingdom there in its own little way. So there's a chief there, and we make sure that everything's okay with him first, and then head ashore. We do a village visit, and they'll do their traditional dancing and welcomes to the area. And then they do guided walks around the village, so you can really get to see how things happen in a totally remote little islet where they are. And that's during the morning, and then back to the ship for lunch. And then after lunch, they allowed us last time, and we'll be able to do it again. There's a private islet there, so we'll go across to there. And last time we enjoyed mimosas and some snacks on the beach and crystal clear waters for some water activities there. So it was a really stunning place to visit. Then we've got a couple of days at sea, and that's getting ourselves into Micronesia proper. So from that very distant outlet, the next stop is at Kosrae. Flick that over. Are we there, Will? Yep. So the big thing here is the Leyland ruins, and it's quite a different, as you can see, topography from going from a very sandy little islet to this place where it's very volcanic, it's big high peaks and totally covered in native forest and bush. So a very, very different scenario from the first visit. The Leyland ruins are really fantastic things to see, and there's great guides there that will break up into small groups to enjoy the Leyland ruins. And also then in the afternoon, there's excellent snorkeling and diving just on another part of around the other side of Kosrae is where the water activities are, and it was quite outstanding there. the quality of the reef there last time. So Pompeii, we want to flip that over there. Really beautiful place again. Today, it's another big stop with the archaeological site of Ngā Madol. And when we went last time, we were the first people to go back there in pretty much 4 years after COVID. And they've done this huge job of, you can imagine, it got all overgrown, and because there were nobody visiting there, so it gave them the opportunity with us visiting to get everything back into shape there. And this is a lot of man-made canals and waterways and structures that were done such a long time ago. And we'll spend a good chunk of the morning and probably a touch of the afternoon visiting into Ngā Madol. When the tide's in, we can actually take local boats right in there. And on the low tide, we can walk. So it will just depend on what the tide's doing. And then we will head to a waterfall there, and we'll have a packed lunch to enjoy at the waterfall and make our way back after that to the ship. So the big focus there is on Ngā Madol. Anti-Atoll, again, a really fantastic place. We had such a fantastic friendly visit there last time, and the guys found really good snorkel and dive spots there, and had a really good village visit. Very different from the other places. They've got their own, of course, culture and customs, different types of dances that they did, and then they allow us to, they've actually got their own private weekend spot there for where they all head off for barbecues and relaxing with families on the weekends. So the chief allows us to use that place to have a beach barbecue and drinks ashore to finish off the day there. It's Anti-Atoll. Then we've got a day at sea to get ourselves into Truck Lagoon. Now, Truck Lagoon, of course, is famous because of what happened during World War II, and that's our focus there. A lot of the wrecks at Truck Lagoon are very deep, i.e. 50 and 60 metres deep, but there's also ones that sit in that 18 metres and less. So that means that, you know, a standard certified diver can enjoy those wrecks, and they're the ones we'll focus on. Last year, we offered 3 different wreck dives during the day. So the certified divers were able to either do 1 dive, 2 dive, or 3 dive, depending on what you wanted to do, all on different wrecks. One starting obviously at the deepest, and then a middle depth one, and then the third one would be the shallowest one, so that you're controlling your depth for the day. They do have a rule at Truck Lagoon. You must be a certified diver, so there's no try diving there at all, and you must have dived within the last 12 months. If you haven't, then you need to make sure you let our office team know, and then we can organise for our dive instructor on board to give you a refresher course, and that will be okay. That will allow you to do that Truck Lagoon day. If you don't, you won't be allowed in the water. That's just the regulations there. There's for the snorkelers, we did a mix of a coral reef snorkel and also snorkeling over the top of a wreck. So there's a couple of really good options for snorkeling as well. In the afternoon, we visited a place called Etten Island, and we went on a World War II historic walk with local guides, and it was a really interesting walk, and it ended up at the American abandoned Air Force Base there, which is still all there, and it's quite an amazing thing to see this World War II Air Force Base in the middle of the jungle there. And there was a lot of history to talk about, and that's on Etten Island. So that's Truck Lagoon, that's what's happening there. That's going to be Palawats. Very different here, totally different people. I think probably much more like what you might see in those very outer islands of Papua New Guinea. So different people, they look a bit different, they dress differently, and it's probably a little bit of a combination of different cultures going on here. And it's a really beautiful sort of palm-lined atoll type of village. Really good local dancers. They had an excellent handicraft market. And then, so we did our village visit in the morning and then popped back to the ship for lunch. And then we headed over to a place called Islet. And we had afternoon tea on the beach, mimosas and drinks, and swimming in the clear waters. There's no real snorkeling in this area, just because of the location, but they do have beautiful crystal clear water for having a swim off the beach. Lama Track will be the next one. And this was a bit of a surprise, this one. They turned out in force here. They were so keen to see people. We were the first ship to go back there after a long while. And they had all the lays out, which is very much, that Papua New Guinea style of welcome, and a lot of singing and welcomes into the village. And then they had really good displays of how they use local medicines, because they don't have access to a lot of modern medicines. They had a really good craft display, local lifestyles, those sorts of things. There was really good snorkeling and diving close by. And they also, as you can see in the picture there, you were able to, if you wanted to, get out on the local outriggers, and they took the guests out into the bay and then got the sail up and did some sailing around the lagoon area, which was great fun. Next one will be Eiffelik. And for those of you, if you've been to the Trobriands in Papua New Guinea, very much like it. The faces change again. So it's quite amazing, as you move along, how the people change as you get closer to other areas. Really beautiful village. There's a little bit of Australian content here, with the Australian government having helped them with water and those sorts of things. But what we saw there was really traditional ceremonial headgears and dress wear. They let everybody have a crack at weaving and basket making. There were guided walks around the village. Really good diving and snorkeling in the lagoon. And further down, we found out there was quite prolific bird watching. So this year, we'll make sure that the first thing we do is break off for those who are keen on birding, and you can head down and see all the birds down there. So they'll have all the birds that are migrating across that are visiting through there. We've got a day at sea, and then we're into Yap, a really stunning place, beautiful area, and probably into one of the more populated places that we're going to, just as far as number of people that live in the community there. We can actually come alongside at this one, so we won't be anchoring. We'll be in the small port there, and we'll be visiting the famous village, which is called Kade, and it's the home of Stone Money Bank. And you can see the kids there with the giant stone money. I'm not sure how you carry that around to buy things, but it's a really amazing history, and there were really good guides that were with us to explain how this giant money came into play and how even today it's still important. It's still a big part of their lifestyle, and it was really interesting to see how it's been integrated into modern life. And then once we've done that, we'll nip back to the ship for some lunch, and then there's really good reef snorkeling, excellent diving, and that's with the local dive company. So it's a place there where you can't go out and do it yourself. You have to use the local dive company, but they're excellent. So we can use our own vessels. They just bring their guides with us for either the surf diving and the snorkeling. And we had a fantastic time there last time. We've got a day at sea and into Palau. Palau is its own country. They are part of FSM, which is Federated States of Micronesia. However, they are their own country, right? And they have their own prime minister, president, and look after themselves. So when we head into here, we'll be anchoring off the Royal Resort, which is just makes it easy for us to transfer all of you guys ashore to do your activities. You have to use local operators here. We can't, it's not legal to do your own thing. So there's really good company that we use there that get things really good when you head off and do your tours. So there's town tours, there's snorkeling around the rock islands. There'll be the jellyfish lake will be available if there's any jellyfish there. Last time we went there, they were in the middle of a drought, and it just because the water had warmed up, the jellyfish go into hiding. So it's just part of nature. So we just keep an eye on it, and they let us know if the jellyfish are in the lake or if they've ducked into the deep because of the warmth of the water. You can do your own thing in Palau if you want, or you can head across to the resort and just relax over there. So plenty of options in beautiful Palau. Then we've got a day at sea, and then the last stop of the voyage is at another extremely remote place right on the other side, opposite to our first place, is called Helen Reef, and the guys had a fantastic time there. There's local rangers who live on Helen Reef, and they're there to look after the turtle program there, and they're there to manage the waterways around there. They have a lot of problems with illegal fishing from particularly Filipino boats and those sorts of things. So they're trying to police that as well. But it was a really beautiful place, and the local rangers took us on a guided walk around the islet, talked about the turtle conservation program, the illegal fishing, really good bird watching there, so many seabirds, and then back to the ship for some lunch, and then there was really good swimming, snorkeling, diving, and then we finished with some drinks beach there, and then you got a day at sea and into Sarong, and then there's a charter flight that goes Sarong to Darwin. So that's that voyage. Really good trip. All places that we've been to, so there's nothing new there. We've fine-tuned all of those from that first voyage.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you very much, Steve. And without further ado, as I know I'm rapidly using up my allocated time, we'll just move on to our next kind of featured itinerary today. Vanuatu, the Solomons, New Britain and Bougainville. So 16 nights, Port Vila to Rabaul, departing early in 2026. So over to you, Jen, to introduce this one, and I'll move on to the first slide when you're ready. Are you there, Jen?
Sorry about that. Had myself on mute. We have been to most of the locations on this cruise before. We started going to Melanesia back in, 2005, 2006. Some of these locations we haven't been to for many, many years, and some we have visited quite recently. And there are a couple that will be brand new, which is always exciting to add into the itinerary. So yeah, I've been to Papua New Guinea part of this voyage, just being Rabaul. I haven't done the rest of the voyage. However, Steve has done it many, many times, and I picked his brain when putting together this itinerary. And I have run this itinerary in this region a couple of times before. So I have a fairly good insight into what I think is going to be the most interesting itinerary there. We can start.
Okay, let's go to the first slide. Over to you.
Okay, so our first stop is going to be Tanna Island. So, and where we'll have the opportunity to climb Mount Yasser. They get us all in four-wheel drive trucks. It used to be just like a dirt path through the jungle, but they have recently paved it. We will be there during the wet season, so it's really good that they've got a paved road that'll make it a lot more accessible for us as well. And then they've got a climb up there, up to the rim of the volcano, and you get to actually look inside and see everything, see the activity going on. Steve, that one's, how long of a walk up the volcano is that one? Oh, you're on mute, Steve.
Yeah, they drop you fairly close to the top. You can see that photo bottom left. It's about a 10-minute walk. That's all up the steps there, and you're at the top. But the rest of it, they drive you almost right to the top now.
Yeah, and we'll be coming from a place called WWII. So it is a bit of a drive. In the four-wheel drives can be a little bit rough, but if you don't want to do that, if you have a bad back and you're not interested in going that far, we'll also be doing village visits, and they've got really interesting history there. If you Google John from cult, it's just their sort of really interesting kind of mythological / World War II kastom that they have there. And yeah, so people that don't want to do the volcano excursion can stay back and have the village experience there and learn about all this very unique culture on Tanna. Go to the next one, Will. Okay, so Nuna Island. We visited there for the first time back in October 2019. I remember Steve was on board as the expedition leader, and I was running it back from the office and, checking in and seeing how things were going. He said, "Oh, this was an awesome day. We have to do this every time. Such a good place." Another good place for walks. This one, there's an option there to do the walk up Mount Mero. Not an active volcano this time, just an extinct one, but you got plenty of volcanoes on this itinerary, so not to worry. It's also part of the Pele Nuna marine protected area, so some really fantastic snorkeling and diving opportunities. If you want to do something a little bit more sedate or not as active, there'll be options to do handicraft tours in the local village. So yeah, this was a real highlight stop the last time we went here, and we're looking forward to going again. Next stop, thank you. Malekula Island. So Malekula Island has a really interesting culture. They sort of divide their local people into kind of two larger sets, the big Nembus and the small Nembus. So we will either be visiting Southwest Bay in the southwest of the island, or we're also looking at visiting a place called Vau in the northeast of the island. We've been to Southwest Bay many times. They have really interesting, customary dances there. Yeah, and it's just one of the more look. Vanuatu's got such diverse culture from island to island, but this one has sort of one of the more resonant stories, and it's just quite interesting. We can move on to the next one. Maywo. So Maywo is a place we haven't been for a long time. We did used to include it back in 2008. We had some 5-night short Vanuatu cruises that just went from Port Vila to Port Vila. So we haven't been there since then, but it is a spectacular island, very mountainous, rugged. It's known for its waterfalls. So we've got our plans there are to go to a waterfall up towards the on the northeast side of the island. It's called Neon Waterfall. Obviously access is going to be subject to the conditions at the time and that sort of thing. And it will be wet season, so it's going to be pumping. So there's not going to be jumping off the rocks or anything like that, but it'll definitely be an awesome sight to see. Really rugged, dramatic coastline on the east side. And there is a place there called the Moon Cave. And we are planning to get our explorers into the Moon Cave, have a look in there. There's apparently some, ancient writings on the wall there. So it's really quite, a mythical place. And possibly do some swimming or snorkeling in there if the conditions are suitable. So yeah, we're very excited to go back there again because it's been a good long time now. Motolava and Ra Island. Okay, so these are places we have not been before, but very really, really interesting. So Ra Island's a little island off of Moto Lava, which is the larger island. It's really well known for the snake dance, which is the dance that you can see the traditional dancing depicted in these photos. So this again is one of those probably like the top 3 most well-known traditional dances in Vanuatu, and quite special. So we're really going to try to what's the word, curate the amount of sings and traditional performances we have, because if you've done these sort of itineraries before, you know that you can get a little bit of a sing overload. So we're going to try to really whittle it down to the ones that are just really, really fantastically special. And I believe this will be one of them. We'll also have an option here on Motolava, subject to conditions, of course, and meeting minimum numbers, to climb up the little peak there. It's a short, sharp walk, so it would be for the fit. But for those that don't want to do that, there'll be a chance to hang back in the village and do shorter walks as well. Move on to the next one. Santa Ana. Okay, so we haven't been to Santa Ana for a while now, but we did used to go there quite often. Steve, it's probably been a good 10, 15 years since we've been there. So this is, as you can see, it's got this really cool little bay that we just tuck into. The really cool thing about Santa Ana is the walks that we can do there. Beautiful jungle walk, and the jungle's full of orchids. So you can go through, and so any of our people that are, keen wannabe botanists can go through and have a look. They're also really well known there for the fish hooks that they create. So if you're wanting to pick up some unique local artifacts, it's a great place to go. It's very, very picturesque there. Beautiful kind of beach and environs. So we're looking forward to returning. Morale Sound. Okay, this is another one that we went to for the first time in either 2018 or 19. And it is another one that we went there, and Jamie and Steve, the expedition leaders, instantly wrote back in the reports, we have to include this in every future trip. It is fantastic. Amazing snorkeling. There were walks available. You can see a picture there of the women doing the water dance. Just an absolutely stunning environment, great in-water activity opportunities, very friendly locals. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Tavinapupu. It's the resort where Wills and Kate had their honeymoon, I believe, or they visited there at some stage and had a little romantic rendezvous. We're not going to that resort because we're not resorty kind of people, but we are going to be hanging around in those surrounds over on Marapa Island, getting to do snorkeling and hang back and sipping cocktails on the sand key. So it'll be pretty nice. Malaita and Lenga Lagoon. So Malaita Island is quite well known for its, as all of this region is, its headhunting history, but particularly Malaita is known for its headhunting history. The people in the central part of the island basically kind of chased down some of the other people in the island, and those people ended up living up along the coast in houses that they've built up along the sea. So it's really scenically. It's really quite scenic there to see all these houses built on stilts and over the lagoons. Gosh, there'd probably be a lot of mosquitoes there for the people, but that's not going to worry us too much. We have been there before, as recently as 2019. We went to Lenga Lagoon and we went to the Busu Cultural Village. They talked to us there about their shell money, which is really quite interesting. You can buy kind of ropes of this shell money. And a really interesting traditional dancing and history there. If we don't go to Lenga Lagoon, because it is sometimes subject to just local conflicts between the local people, we'll go up north to Oki, which is also on Malaita, and very similar sort of villages on stilts. So it will be a very similar sort of experience with opportunities to snorkel as well, I should have said. The next one. Russell Islands. So we went here, I believe, for the first time in October 2019. We went to a place called Marilon Islands. This place has great diving, great snorkeling, and the villagers there had a really amazing bamboo band. There's quite a few bamboo bands throughout this itinerary, but these are the ones that kind of they really made quite a spectacular show of it. So that will be another, and it's also another really off the beaten track destination. People don't think about going over to the Russell Islands when they go to the Solomons. So it's kind of perfect location for an expedition ship. Okay, next on to the Arnavan Islands. So we have been to the Arnavan Islands almost every trip we've done to the Solomons because it is just a top spot. It is the site, I think it's the Solomons' first kind of protected conservation site. This marine protected area that they developed. Hawksbill turtles nest there year round. We're also going to be there at the peak breeding time of the green turtle. So yeah, we'll get to see little turtle hatchlings making their way to the sea, which is an absolutely magical experience. As you can see, corals surrounding the islands, there will be opportunity to snorkel as well. Choiseul Bay. So this is towards the north of Choiseul Island. This will be our clearance stop out of the Solomon Islands before going into Bougainville. This is going to be a new location for us. So we have been talking to our ground agents about doing something at Taro Island, which is apparently the birth site of agriculture in the South Pacific. I don't know where people get these grand statements, but that was the grand statement made about Taro Island. So I dare say we'll be going ashore there and looking at the agricultural practices, learning a bit about the history of the area. And it's a really picturesque bay. There's some really interesting looking rivers. So we might end up doing an explorer cruise up a river and, see what we can see in terms of bird life, etc. Okay, so the autonomous region of Bougainville. So we have been to Bougainville, again, it's been definitely well over a decade. It was, I think, back 2008, 2009, and we haven't been since. So as you know, Bougainville had quite a tumultuous past back in the 90s and so forth, but things have calmed down there a bit. It is still very much an off the beaten track destination. They don't have a lot of organized tourism. People that go there really have to plan very carefully, and it's not a place that has any sort of mass tourism. So that makes it quite an authentic experience. We plan to spend 2 days there. At the moment, we are looking at day one being in the south of the island, in a place called Arawa. And from Arawa, we will arrange transport up to the Panguna mine, which of course was sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? The source of a lot of the angst that led to the big uprising there. So be really interesting history to learn about there. We'll also be doing some snorkeling at Laloho Beach or Pok Pok Island, which are meant to be absolutely fantastic, really healthy reef systems there. So there'll be something for everyone. If people aren't interested in going up to the Panguna mine site, they can hang back and stay around the islands and just do a day of snorkeling in that area. Our second day in Bougainville, we are looking at going to a place called Nissan Island, which is actually, it's off the main island of Bougainville, a little bit northeast, I should say. We have been there, but again, it's been a good 15, 20 years. This is another perfect destination for an expedition ship because there's no other way you can get there. And it is just a spectacularly remote atoll, very unique culture because it's sort of been separated from the rest of the mainland islands. And yeah, do a village visit there and some snorkeling. We had looked at going through Book of Passage, which we've also done before. But I think that Nissan Island will offer more of an exciting kind of really unique expedition experience. So those are our plans for our 2 days in Bougainville. Okay, and then we're going to finish off in Rabaul. We are giving Rabaul the full day it deserves, rather than just trying to cram it into a 2-hour, post-cruise or pre-cruise tour. Rabaul is such a fascinating place. Just you're cruising into this huge caldera, and then there's just this panorama of the volcanoes all around. There's also some really fantastic snorkeling there. I was just there recently in December, and we snorkeled off a place called Pigeon Island, which is just off the Duke of York Islands. And absolutely fantastic underwater world there. I had to be dragged out of the water as usual, and it was just brilliant. A couple times I'd pop my head up and see another guest, and we give each other the okay, like, oh, this is amazing. Just really, really healthy reefs there. Good, reasonable amount of current, but not unmanageable. And I think that current is also what keeps the reef so healthy and thriving. And then during the day, we'll go and do a tour of Rabaul town. So the old Rabaul town. That's actually it is starting to be rebuilt a little bit. So we'll see bits of that. We'll also see the hot springs near Mount River, which is really they're quite eerie. They're bubbling and they're orange, and really makes for some great shots on the camera. There will be an option for those that are crazy and healthy enough to climb Mount River. That's, of course, subject to conditions at the time and meeting minimum number requirements. But yeah, if climbing up a volcano is something that appeals to you, you've got a couple options to do it on this trip.
Thank you very much, Jen. And look, we'll move rapidly on to our final kind of featured itinerary today. The Louisiades, Solomons and Vanuatu, 16 nights cairns to Port Vila, departing, early January 2026. So over to you, Jen.
Okay, so we're doing these all out of order. This is actually going to be the first trip of the series, then the next one I did, and then the Micronesia one's going to be at the end. So Will's just playing funny buggers. But anyways, this one will start off in Cairns. So you'll get on the ship at Trinity Wharf and have a full, 2 days at sea before arriving into Papua New Guinea at Samurai Island. Samurai is really interesting. It's used to be the old provincial capital of the Milne Bay province until after World War II. So it's actually like a bit of a town. There's bigger buildings there. It's not just the little thatch hut villages that we normally visit in these remote parts of PNG. Yet it's still very welcoming. You don't have to feel any concern about being there. There's a really cool little pearl farm store where we can go and look at some of the pearls that are harvested locally, and just lots of interesting history and monuments. There'll be, as it'll be our first day arriving into Papua New Guinea, I'm sure we'll have a traditional welcome with dancing and singing, and of course, handicrafts available as well. There is an island nearby called Ibuma Island, and we've snorkeled off that the times that we've come through that area, or another one called Dika Dika Island. So we will also have some opportunities for snorkeling on that itinerary, or on that day of that itinerary.
Oh, good. I'll just move you on to the first highlight. Go for it. Ibuma Island, as mentioned.
Yeah, that was it. Sorry, that's what I just kind of read through that day. Sorry. Cool. All right. So now we're into the Louisiade Archipelago. So the Louisiade Archipelago is somewhere we had been, again, several years back, a good 15 years ago, but we hadn't been in a really long time. And I had seen some other operators going there, and it looked pretty amazing. So I said, you know what, let's go back to this place. So went back there for the first time in December, and oh my goodness, I was just blown away. First, we went to Panapompom Island, which was just, your idyllic little remote island, beautiful thatch hut villages. They're just living this subsistence lifestyle, which I'm sure is certainly not without its challenges, but it just is such a laid back environment, and they're just so friendly and welcoming. There in the lagoon, Du Bois Lagoon, there is actually a wreck of, and it's still intact, of this Japanese Zero. So that's really cool. You get to snorkel over a bit of World War II history if that appeals to you. Later in the day, we'll go out to a place called Panacea Island. This was an absolutely stunning area. Turquoise sea, beautiful little atolls. We got on the beach, and just you're swimming in water that just feels like you're just in a swimming pool. It's that just really, really light blue water. Great snorkeling opportunities. And Panacea Island itself is this really cool limestone karst sort of island. So we'll get the explorers out and cruise around the sea caves there and get a bit of a closer look to at the geology of that island. Yeah, so Louisiade Archipelago was a really great place that we are excited to return to. We plan to spend 2 days here. The second day, we will be just going further east into the archipelago. We're still kind of working on the content there, so that'll be a bit of an expedition stop. But if it's anything like the first bit we saw, I think we're going to have an amazing second day there. Go to the next one. Okay, then after the well, actually, I think we might have missed the Laughlin Islands. So after the Louisiade Archipelago, we go up to the Laughlin Islands, and they're known for their canoe building culture. Really great snorkeling there in the atoll. So yeah, that's our last stop in Papua New Guinea before heading over and across to the Solomons. And we will enter the Solomons at Gizo, and we'll visit Gizo town. Have a traditional welcome there. They have really interesting markets there, so we'll have a wander through those. And then later in the day, we'll get to cruise past Kennedy Island, where JFK swam ashore after his Navy vessel was sunk back during World War II. And we'll get to snorkel at Najari Reef, which has amazing diversity and clarity within the water there. Vonavona Lagoon. So this is a place that we haven't been to before, and it looks really, really interesting. I just kind of honed into it from Google Earth and just looked around. I was like, oh, this is a place we need to go. This is exactly the kind of place where we can get the explorers out, cruise around the lagoon, go and look at all these cool little islands, find cool snorkeling spots. We will be visiting a place called Lola Island, and there is a little resort there. They're going to be helping us organize walks through the island, so some nice jungle walks that we can do there. They're also going to take us over to a place called Skull Island. So Skull Island is one of the most sacred sites in the Solomon Islands. They do have these sites in quite a few places in the Solomons, but this is one of the only ones that can be accessed by the public. So yeah, that will be a really interesting experience. We will have to be divided up into smaller groups because these are, I know Skull Island is quite small, so we'll split everyone up into smaller groups and kind of rotate them through activities during the day. So walks on Lola Island, snorkeling in the lagoon, and cruising around the mangroves of the lagoon, and then also visiting Skull Island. So very full day in Vonavona Lagoon, and we're really excited to go there for the first time. Tetepere. So we went to Tetepere for the first time in October 2019. It's a bit like the Arnavan Islands in that it's a protected marine conservancy, and the whole island actually is protected now, and it's got a really cool story behind it. The Tetepere Descendants Association was basically just all the traditional landowners. They got together when logging operations were setting their sights on the island, and through their kind of communal efforts, they got them to back off, and they've been able to keep their island protected for future generations. Lots of endemic species on the island. The island is still, apart from the little resort base there, it's otherwise uninhabited. It's got this sort of mysterious history where no one lived there for 150 years, which I'm sure the locals will talk about that, kind of the legends associated with that when we go. We'll get to see the turtle tagging process there with the local rangers who will also lead us on a walk. And there's also some really fantastic snorkeling there. It was some of the best that we had done on this trip. So it's another great stop in the Solomons. Morovo Lagoon. So it is, oh gosh, how do I say this? It's the world's largest double enclosed saltwater lagoon, or something like that. It's a special place. It was actually almost listed for World Heritage status, but unfortunately logging in the area prevented that from going ahead. Amazing place with lots of snorkeling and diving opportunities. The locals there are also well known for their skill in carving. So some beautiful carvings there made out of ebony. Just another great day with lots of opportunities for diverse activities. Okay, and then we go into the Florida Islands. So this is kind of heading down, not too far from Honiara. We're going to go see the wreck of the MS World Discoverer. So it's still fairly intact, as you can see there in that picture, in a place called Roderick Bay, where we'll also have some good snorkeling opportunities as well. We haven't been to this particular location before, but we have been to the Florida Islands many times. We'll also be going to a place called Tulagi. Tulagi actually used to be the capital of the Solomons before it moved to Honiara after World War II. So it's another really interesting place in terms of the history. One of our guest lecturers, I believe, that will be traveling on this, he is basically a celebrity in Tulagi. When we went there last time, people were running up to him in the streets and, treating him like he was almost a bit of a prince. So that should be really interesting to see again. That will be our day in the Florida Islands. Okay, and then down to Makira Island, or Makra. And we go to a place called Star Harbor. Again, another great place for traditional dancing. There'll be good snorkeling and bird watching opportunities at Frigate Island, which is off the main place that we go, which is usually Namuga. Some good opportunities for carving and markets. And you'll come home with a suitcase full of trinkets, that's for sure.
That segues quite nicely actually into a question that a couple of people have asked, Jen. Access to cash, ATMs, I'm assuming limited throughout all three of these voyages outside the kind of bigger urban centres. Can you provide any advice on what I just said was accurate?
Correct. Yeah, we would definitely recommend purchasing currency before you come on the ship and in as small of denominations as possible. Oh, I know that can be a challenge. I found when I recently went, it was over to Papua New Guinea, that was quite a challenge to get small denominations. If you're starting the trip in Port Vila, you won't have a problem there. And Gizo and any of the more kind of established townships will have ATMs. I believe Samurai has an ATM as well, but pretty much all of the other places that we're going to, Tulagi probably also has one as well. They're not going to have them. So it's quite important that you come with, a suitable amount of money for the amount of things that you want to purchase. Just keep in mind, everything on the ship, of course, is included, your food, your drink, but it's just when you're ashore that you might want to have the opportunity to, really, it's just about the handicrafts. And, people might ask, how much should I bring? It's how long is a piece of string? It's really depends on how much and your interest level. Personally, I would bring a couple $100 equivalent Australian in the relevant currency, but I also am a huge handicraft artifact person, and not everyone needs to get that many things. But I always just figure it's better to have more, and then just you can change the currency out at the end of the trip.
Thanks, Jen. Moving on, Nendo.
Oh, and Rabaul, of course. Rabaul would also have ATMs. Sorry. So Nendo Island. So Nendo is going to be our first stop in the Solomons. And yeah, some really interesting traditional dancing there. As you can see there, they like their necklaces and the little breechcloths that they wore just were some of the most unique that they have seen throughout this region. So that is, yeah, that makes for a really interesting call there. There's also some really good snorkeling that we've done at a reef nearby there. Yeah, so that is a good day there at Nendo. Low Island. So we haven't, well, we have been here a very long time ago. Steve reckons we came here as a backup when we couldn't get somewhere else and we swam in a lagoon there, but it's all a bit hazy. So this is going to be, I'm basically considering it the first time that we have been there. What I think is really cool about Low Island is it's proper not visited. The tourist group's really kind of the outer reaches of the outer islands of Vanuatu. Like these are really people that don't get much tourism at all. So they're really excited about, you know, ships that come to visit them. They have these really, really interesting traditional headwear there. You can see in the top right picture, these beautiful kind of painted or floral headdresses. And the snorkeling there is meant to be absolutely amazing. So really excited to go here. We're mixing it up. We usually go to a place called Europarapara when we enter into Vanuatu. But you know, the last couple times we went there, we weren't as impressed. So we want to try something different. And I think this is the beauty of expedition cruising. You know, when something's starting to become a bit stale, or maybe the local people are becoming a bit jaded, you can go off and find someplace else. And Vanuatu is just wonderful for that. You're just spoiled for choice. Okay, Espiritu Santo Island. So this day is still under development. When we've gone to Espiritu Santo before, we've gone to the places like Champagne Beach, Hog Harbor, and Luganville. Unfortunately, because of the big cruise ships that kind of frequent these locations, those places are really not special anymore. Still beautiful, but they just they're not the expedition experience that we aim to achieve. So we are looking at going to a place in the south part of Espiritu Santo, an island called Malo Island. And Malo Island, it has great snorkeling. There's some blue holes in the jungle there. And it's just a less touristed sort of area. We'll also be close to some of the wrecks off of the coast of Luganville. So if there is interest in doing any wreck diving, we'll be able to organize an excursion for those interested in doing that. Ambrym. So Ambrym is a place we used to go back in our 5-night cruises that we did back in 2008, 2009. It's a really special place, very volcanic, black sand beaches, and another one of those iconic dances of Vanuatu takes place there, the Rom dance. This is one of the most spectacular dances you're going to see. It's just a place steeped in sort of mystery. It's called the Black Magic Center of Vanuatu. We'll have walks available to do there. There is one that you could do all the way up the mountain, but I think that's going to be a little bit too hard for anyone coming along on our cruises. But we'll have shorter walks available from Banla, which will still allow you to take in sort of the scenery of the island and the jungle as well, plus this amazing cultural experience.
Right, guys, I'm going to move to the end of this presentation as I'm very conscious that I've taken up way over my 45-minute window. I have had a couple of questions, some of which we've addressed during the presentation, pop up. Just one for either yourself, Jen, or Steve, if he's still online. Had a guest ask, is there a large difference between our citizen science voyages and these voyages in terms of snorkeling? And just to kind of paraphrase myself for you, Jen, like where are you going to get the better snorkeling? I would assume it's going to be the Micronesia Melanesia, but can you answer that one?
Well, it's really, oh gosh, I don't want to say the Great Barrier Reef is better than these remote reefs or vice versa. I think they're different and they offer different things. In terms of the amount that you're going to snorkel, it's very similar on both of. I mean, certainly on on all of these itineraries, you snorkel almost every day, with a few exceptions. And I believe on the citizen science itinerary, it's the same. Steve, what's your thoughts on that? Because you've snorkeled in all of these areas.
Yeah, it's wrong to try and compare things, but I would say that in those Micronesia and Melanesia locations, often you're in more sheltered locations. You don't get that very strong southeaster that you can get on the Great Barrier Reef, which can chop up the water very quickly. So that would be the difference that I would point out. But you shouldn't compare coral reefs. They're different experiences.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the, like, if you're a person that is not really interested in different cultures and things like that, and you're just purely like, I want to be in the water and just that's my main focus, then probably a Great Barrier Reef cruise would be more your thing, because there is quite a mix of water activities and cultural excursions on the Micronesia and Melanesia trips. But in terms of the amount you'll be doing and the quality, I'd say same, but different. Yeah.
Cool. Look, thank you very much, Jen, and thank you to you, Steve. I think you've put together three, really pretty, unique, proper kind of expedition itineraries, which is, at the end of the day, what coral expeditions are known for providing. So look, thank you very much today for providing your own kind of insights into these really remote locations. I would have struggled to do it without you. For any of you listening today, please reach out to our genuinely excellent kind of service team based at our Cairns head office on the Explore email address or the 1-800 number. Or, like I say, please reach out to your travel agent and they can do so on your behalf. We've got all of the the brochures live available online, videos, images, maps, you name it. Please jump onto the website and peruse to your heart's content. For any of you that had to cut the webinar a little bit short because we did run a little bit over, we do record these webinars and we will send you the recording as soon as it's ready. And yeah, look, please consider one of these Micronesia and Melanesia voyages in early 2026. I think they're going to be spectacular trips, really playing to the kind of strengths that coral expeditions are known for providing. So thank you again, Jen and Steve, for joining us today. Thank you to all of you for giving us your valuable time and listening to this presentation. And we hope to see you on board soon. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.